Hey everyone, welcome back. Icon here. Thanks so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. It has been 4 or 5 days since we have been able to catch up with the Chicago Huntsmen, so that is what we are doing today. They are scrimming the Toronto Ultra, which we don't really see all that often. A lot of times you'll see scrims with the New York Subliners and Florida and maybe even Dallas as of late, but you don't really see Toronto all that much. So given what Toronto was able to do at their last tournament, they improved a little bit. I figured this would be a good one to tune into, to break down, so that everybody knows what we're looking for moving forward. So as we hop into this one, you can see that there is a mini map above Formal's head in the top right hand corner that I will draw on occasionally just to kind of set the record. Right now everybody's fighting over P1, so it's currently at the first hill, and you can see that Chicago's doing a really nice job of getting some valuable time here. And the reason why this is valuable, because as it rotates to the right side of the hill, they don't have spawns for P2. So when Formal came up off of spawns, he came up off of spawns right there, and as of right now, I know that it's being pushed out, but Toronto is spawning back here towards P2, so that's why you're seeing such a concerted effort to try to push out P2 as this first hill is about to close. Now, something that we've seen happen a lot recently is that a lot of times these teams are really attacking that first hill, because the more they attack that first hill, the less important it is to actually flip spawns for this second hill. And this is quite an insane spree from Formal right there. He just got a 4-piece on that left-hand side, which essentially all that did is it just flipped. Now they're spawning left and Toronto is spawning right. So this is still a contested hill, but you can see that now they are up and they're contesting this, and they're not really giving up any more free time. But just real quick, to get back to the point that we were talking about, if you don't really hit that first hill very hard and you're unsuccessful at flipping, then you could be down by 60, 70, 80 points after P2. So the fact that they were able to hit that first hill hard, now I don't necessarily love the fact that they were able to flip, because now there's only 7 seconds left, but the thing that is important is that they have a 30-point lead. It's about to rotate to P3, and they've been able to flip spawns. So real quick, let me just go ahead and pause this for just a quick second so I can go ahead and I can explain to you guys what we just saw. So as it's going from P2 to P3, Chicago was able to flip here, and what you just saw Formal do, and the rest of normally it's Envoy, which is back there on the left-hand side towards Warehouse. But as it goes to P2 to P3, this is the most direct route, right? But that's not the route that you want to take. A lot of times what teams have been doing now is they've been pushing through P4 over here to Woods, and they've really been hitting a hard flank trying to get behind Warehouse, which is where P5 is. And the whole reason why you want to do that, because as you approach P3 and then eventually P4 and most importantly P5, you want to have that back spawn. If you can have the spawns for those 3 series of hard points, you can really start to load up your lead, and you can get a ton of time off of those 3. Now, you've probably heard this a couple times before. It isn't super important to have the left side of P3. When it comes to P3, and for just talking about P3, you can approach this hill from either way. You don't have to have the Warehouse side. You don't have to have Cole side. Either or is okay, as long as once you gain control of the hill, you are then pushing out a little bit further into those choke points. And that's what you're seeing right now, is that Toronto is doing a nice job of getting kills in those choke points, and now all of a sudden in P3, when Chicago had that 30, 40-point lead, it has been completely evaporated, and not only do they not have control of P3, but they lost spawns and they lost the lead. So they're going to be down by about 20 points as this is rotating into P4. So as we're going here, if you're looking at this from a Chicago standpoint, you have to go ahead, you have to try to flip this again, and that's really hard to do. So if the focus is on P3, this is a little bit easier to flip. If the focus is on P4, this is much more difficult, because there's really only one route or one lane in which you can do that. You just saw where Formal spawned. So if I'm drawing on the minimap, Formal spawned way back here, and this is where P4 is. So in order to flip spawns, the biggest focus is going to be pushing out this left-hand side right here, right? So this is much harder to do if the focus is on P4, because there's really only one lane. Now, of course, you could break off middle and try to go this way, but as you come up off of spawn, you can see that Formal's not going to run all the way around the right-hand side of the map, go through B-Dom, go through P3, and try to flip it this way, right? By the time he did that, first of all, he probably wouldn't be successful, but even if he was, that would take at least 25, 30 seconds to run across that route. So that's why you're seeing such a struggle to push up in woods over here and get through. Now that smoke is going to help. If you can get some kills in that choke point right in the middle, if you can get across, then that's really how you can start to flip things around a little bit. So as Formal comes up off spawns, they're now spawning coal. So that means that Chicago's spawning coal, and then Toronto would be spawning woods. So what you're going to see is a lot of contesting going down right here in the middle of the hill. Because if you're Chicago, then of course the easiest route in would be to run through boxes and get into P5. But some people will send somebody through you to go middle, or you just hit this middle route right here. And if you can win the gunfights in that contested area, then that's the easiest way to overtake a hill, get spawns, and then get the remainder of that time there. So as we're about to rotate, there's 10 seconds left in P5. As we're about to rotate from P5 back to P1 on second set of rotations, you can see that Formal is already set back up over here, and he's protecting this left-hand side so that they can hold spawns as it rotates back from P1 to P2. Now, it just seems like it was only 3 hills ago they were up by 20 points, and now they're down by almost 100. They're down by 90 points, and that's just how quickly things can snowball. They lost P3. They were able to contest to fight over P4 a little bit, and then they just got absolutely blown out of the water on P5. So if you're Chicago, you have to kind of recuperate here, get your heads back, and you really have to hold down spawns as it rotates back from P1 to P2. Now, the beautiful things about scrims, and the thing that I like the most about it, is that we can actually hear what they're talking about. So in a time where this is becoming a little bit desperate, let's go ahead. I'm going to turn up the volume. I'm going to let you guys listen in. I'll still make comments here and there where I feel it is most needed, but for now, let's go ahead. Let's listen in and hear just what they're talking about in terms of strategy as it goes through the second set of rotations.
I'm red train right now.
I have time.
Another one there.
I have all left.
After again, dead.
I'm going top.
I'm sure, man. That's
in
fine.
red train.
I'm helping you, Nick. Or I should help?
They're all gonna be
As I'm looking at Formal's minimap real quick, I see people on his left outside. I see people on his right outside. So there he was he was guarded fairly well. Now his left side is open, so that's why you see he's watching the left side, and his teammates are spawning on the right side.
One shot back a hill, dead. One more hill.
Front door, and top AC.
Front door, one shot, and
Two there. I'm coming to help you guys. Fuck.
Hey, good job, whoever my crates.
I spawned there. One more crate.
Top AC dead.
Looking crates.
Or no?
One more.
So when Formal was in the hill there, that's really hard for him to hold as an AR player. I probably would have liked him running out that left-hand side, and then he could have gotten set up on that cargo container, and then he would have been able to win favorable gun battles, right? If this is a 10-feet gun battle, so if his enemy is 10 foot in front of him, and they have an MP5, he's probably not going to win this. So I would have liked to have seen him push out, try to pick up a couple kills in the open there so that his teammates could then fill in behind him and get the hill time.
One shot in pipes.
Oh, no trophy shit.
From
weak.
middle.
I'm weak by nade. Yeah, there's 2 front guys. Help me, guys. You can help. They're coming. I'm just laying down.
Green ramp, please, Jamie.
Ramp dead.
One hill. Challenge me hill.
Hill left.
One hill.
Wins.
He's on the heady.
He's ramp.
Ramp. Dead ramp. On the heady.
Ramp absolutely got me on heady. One bullet.
Eddie got me. Good job.
I need help, guys.
I'm trying to go green.
He's helping Hill, guys.
Need help. I'm just laying down.
Yeah, I needed your cross.
We have methods with the 3-piece there, so
One, you got me pipe.
this is just a nice job of, even though Toronto doesn't have control of this hill, look at all the pressure. For the last 30 seconds or so, there's been constant pressure. Formal has been one shot, one bullet that entire time, so they weren't able to get a lot of that time until the last 15 or 20 seconds, but they just did such a nice job of keeping pressure on the hill so that they didn't give up, and in a total 60 there.
Yeah, that's both of them.
Pipes, Cammy.
I'm hitting out left with you.
He's not pushing it. He went back in pipes. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
got Cammy.
Oh, he's dead. I'm in hill. I'm going right.
Are they forest, guys?
Coming forward, straight up here. Singer.
One thing that I noticed real quick while I'm listening to this is that I don't hear a lot of intensity, right? When you're hearing Pierce talk, when you're hearing Gunless talk, he's like, on hill, guys, left side challenge, guys. And that's a lot of what you're hearing. So I don't know. I don't hear the normal intensity that I hear from them. It just seems like this is another scrim. This is another game. I don't know.
Open crate, and hill, dude.
Did you hear Gunless again right there? Top grades.
No, that's 5 flips. Holy shit.
That was good.
Nah, he
got
snuck
the
through the
royal.
left. Nice, snuck through left.
Nice, snuck through left. On oil.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I don't know. There's almost like a feeling of they were dejected or something. Now, I will say
yeah.
that I watched their first 4 maps and they lost all of them. One of them was really close, but I don't know. That just had some weird aura around it. I don't even know the word for it. But as we go through, if I'm going to stop this real quick just so that we can look at the score, Seth was -6, Gunless -3, Arcity's -10. Envoy, of course, played great. Envoy's always playing good. And then Formal was +5. Where if you look at the other side, Cammy, +5. Bance dropped 30. Basically had 60 interactions. Classic, 27-27. Methods was 29-15. Methods is by far the best player on that team so far this year. He's been playing out of his mind. But as we go ahead and start to wrap this video up, I don't know. That just seemed a little odd to me because they didn't seem too into it. They didn't seem really excited to be playing. I hardly heard from Arcities really at all, right? You heard from Seth, you heard from Formal, of course, Envoy. Pierce was super quiet. Arcities was just, I don't know. I don't even remember like a big thing or a big point that Arcities was trying to make. So that was a little bit odd for me. But who knows? It's the first scrim post CDL LA. So who knows if they're just getting back into the swing of things or what, but I don't know. It's not too promising just based off of these 4 maps that I've watched so far today and the conversations that we were just hearing. So if you're new around here and you enjoy this sort of stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you have any comments whatsoever, put them down below. I get back to everybody. I love the interaction. So if you have anything about this, make sure that you leave a comment, leave a like before you head on your way. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next episode.